there, and welcome back to another episode of Be Encouraged Moments. As always, we're so grateful that you're here and that you're a part of these with us. So it's the month of February, and I can't do the month of February and not talk about love.
Right.
Now, we touched on this topic last year. Actually, we both touched on it from different angles with different scriptures. But today, I want to revisit what we talked about last year. Now, no, I don't expect you to remember what we talked about last year.
Come on now.
But we're going to be centering this around 1 Corinthians, love is. And I'm sure you guys have all heard that. But I want to go back a little bit, and I want to read the full scripture. And I want to talk about what the idea behind this scripture was. So it was written by the Apostle Paul, and it was a letter that was penned to a church that was in war. I mean, for lack of better terminology, they were fighting, they were arguing, they were angry, they were mad, they were taking things out on one another because one group thought that they were doing it right, the other group thought that they were doing it right, and everybody thought that everybody else was wrong. And so this letter was written with the intent to talk about how we as individuals are supposed to love everyone else, not how we're supposed to be loved. And so I think that puts a little bit different twist on this. So I want to read the full scripture, and it's a long one, so you'll have to bear with me because I'm going to have to look down because I don't know this off the top of my head. But it is 1 Corinthians. It is chapter 13, so you guys are probably familiar with that. But I'm going to go from 1 all the way to 13. Normally, most people start at 4 and stop at 8. So I want to get the before and after so we can talk a little bit about this.
Yes.
So, if I speak in tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have a prophetic powers and understanding of all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I have nothing. If I give away my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way, or it is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror, dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love. So why did I read from beginning to end? Because in the middle section, it talks about what love is, and I think everyone has glommed onto that part of the scripture and focused so much on what love is, to the point of where we even reference this for marriages and all that kind of stuff. But I think that when you add the first part of it and the second part of it, it's talking about how all the things that we think we know, we don't know without love. Mm-hmm. All the things that we think we understand, we don't understand without love. Love is such an essential part of us being able to work through, to navigate through life. Again, it goes back to not how we are being loved, but how we are loving others. It challenges us to love those who we don't agree with, to love those who we don't understand. So I challenge you in the month of February to think about maybe that neighbor who's constantly turning you into the HOA. Maybe it's one of the moms at school that you just don't see eye to eye with. I mean, I'm not talking, it doesn't have to be like true hatred. It doesn't have to be at the level that this scripture is talking about. But there are those people in our lives that it's really hard for us to show love to. And I don't mean that you have to go up and give them a hug and be like, you know, showing that kind of love. But it's being loving in the way that you approach them. It's loving in the way that you understand why they approach things and the way they approach things. When the Apostle Paul wrote this letter, he was trying to encourage this church to see that the ones who speak in tongues aren't necessarily wrong, and that we need to we have to approach them with a loving heart to see and understand the way we do things. I love this scripture, and I think there's so much to dissect within this scripture.
A lot.
I think there's so much that we can understand, and there's so many different ways that we can approach this scripture. So today, I just wanted to bring you this scripture, and I wanted to encourage you to go back and read 1 Corinthians, sit with this, and understand for yourself what it looks like to love others, to love outward, to take a loving approach when we're dealing with things. We all know that we're in a world today that is showing a lot of rudeness and a little less love, and we've talked about this on other videos. And so this is something that just really seemed to be like, let's bring scripture into this, and let's see how we can approach this from a scriptural aspect. Learn how, teach yourself, sit with your scripture, pray about it. How do we love outward? How do we approach our life outward with a loving approach? We are so grateful, as I said at the beginning, that you guys join us for these, and we hope that these touch you in a way that can teach you how to get into your scriptures and how to really learn how to love one another. Thank you, as always, for joining us for our Be Encouraged moments.